Hey friends, what's going on? Welcome back to Babel on Talmud. Friends, today we are learning, we are studying, we're enjoying Daf Kuf Tes of Masechta Shabbis, Daf 109. Interesting Daf. Kind of like a Masechta Brachos kind of Daf, like lots of interesting homemade remedies. So, without further ado, friends, let's remedy. We're going to start in Daf Kuf Tes, Amud Aleph, 2 lines into the page. Tanya, we're learning a brayso. Reb Nassan Omer says the very exceedingly holy Reb Nassan. Bas choreni zo umakpedes at sheyirchol yodav gimel paimim. So yeah, at the end yesterday we were talking about washing netilas yadayim and not touching sort of open areas of your body before washing netilas yadayim in the morning. So Reb Nassan says that this like ruach ra'ah that hangs out on your hands prior to netilas yadayim, it is a very free spirit, and it's very it doesn't really go away until you wash your hands 3 times each, right? Netilas yadayim in the morning, right? We wake up in the morning, of course we say Moda Ani if we remember, and then we wash netilas yadayim 3 times on each hand, and then this free spirit goes somewhere else. Okay? Rabbi Yechanan, poch Mavir Bas Melech. Okie dokie. Well, if you use this poch, which seems to be what? I think some kind of like mascara or something like that. Okay. So it removes this thing called Bas Melech from your eyes. Alright, sweet. Poch. Bas Melech. Go away. That's what happens. Ufosek etzadima, and it also stops crying. Alright. Umar b'seir b'afapayim. Well, it stops tears. Tears, I guess, are related to crying sometimes. Usually? Always? Maybe? Umar b'seir b'afapayim. And it increases your eyelashes. I think eyelashes would be those things like by your eyes, kind of. No, but like not the eyebrows, like the eyelashes, I think. Alright, sweet. Tanan Amiyachi. We also learn in a brayso like this, Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi, poch ma'avir bas melech, that poch gets rid of bas melech, ufosek esadima, and it stops the tears, umar be'seir b'hafapayim, and increases hair in the eyelashes. V'amar mar ukva amar Shmuel, it's mar ukva in the name of Shmuel, alin, ein boen mishum refuah. So alin, you don't have to worry about, using them on Shabbos and putting them in your eyes and being refuah. Alin seems to just be some, thing, some species. Amar Rav Yosef kuzbarta ein bo mishum refuah. Amar Rav Sheshes kshus ein boen mishum refuah. Now, both Rav Sheshes and Rav Yosef were blind. Whenever I think of Rav Sheshes, I always think of him as a blind person. I don't usually associate Rav Yosef with being blind, but he was. But I don't know if you see, with Rav Yosef, also we often associate with him like at the end of his life, he forgot his learning. Like, I wonder if his blindness kind of came when he became sick at the end of his life. I don't know though. Also, I wonder if, interestingly, right, there's like a Gemara at the end of Brachos where kind of Rav Yosef did this interesting move where this like magician told him that he was going to be Rosh Hashiva for 2 years and then die. So he did this interesting trick where he just had his contemporary Rabbah be Rosh Hashiva first for 20 years, and then he was Rosh Hashiva for 2 years and then died. I wonder if like by sort of playing with fate, while he did gain an extra 20 years of his life, I wonder if that's maybe when he got sick. Because the Gemara does actually say in that same context that all the while that Rabbah was Rosh Hashiva, Rav Yosef never even asked a doctor to come to his house, meaning to give him extra respect. Like I wonder if it was during that period that even though he sort of increased his life, but maybe the quality of his life kind of went downward from there. Maybe that's when he started forgetting his learning, and maybe that's when he got blind. I don't know. I don't know, friends. I wonder. But anyways, so we're talking about this alin, and as a remedy for your eyes. And the Gemara says, well, you don't have to worry about refuah on Shabbos. I guess either because, what does Rashi say? If you eat it in order to make your eyesight better, because it's just a, what's that called? When you have a medicine that doesn't really, placebo. I guess it doesn't really do much. Anyway, so Amr Rav Yosef Kuzbarta ein ba mishum refuah. Rav Yosef says that you don't have to worry about coriander, kuzbara. What's the other? What else do you call it? Kuzbara? There's like another word for it also, right? Coriander, kuzbara, and oh gosh, there's parsley, which is petrozelia. And then there's kuzbara, which is coriander, but there's another name for it also. Friends, tell me, come on, what's the name for that? Coriander, it's, dag nabbit. Petrozelia. No, petrozelia we said is parsley. Kuzbara is, dag nabbit. Alright, let's go weiter. Fine. So, Rav Sheshes Kshus ein ba mishum refuah, and Rav Sheshes says that hops don't have any refuah issues. Fine. I don't know. Rav Yosef Kuzbarta afilu ledidi kashali. Rav Yosef says kuzbara even for me is difficult. I guess it's no good. Doesn't do anything. Says Rashi says kashali l'cheiva ayin im ochlenu. It hurts his eyes if he eats it. Rav Sheshes says Rav Sheshes gargira hops. No, gargira was arugula. Okay, afilu ledidi maili. They're even good for me. Okay, very good. I guess Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes, right? They were both blind, and they were saying different things that work that don't work for their eyes. It's still driving me nuts that I can't figure out what that spice thing is. It's not parsley, and it's not. We don't call it coriander. You know what? One second. I'm going to think about this for a second. Okay, friends. The word I was looking for was cilantro. Let's move on. Mar Ukva Amar Shmuel Komine Kshus Sharu Levar Mitruza, says Mar Ukva in the name of Shmuel that all types of hops are acceptable on Shabbos for healing, except for truza, because that is obviously for healing, and therefore if it's obviously for healing, then you got to be kind of subtle about the whole refuah thing on Shabbos. Truza is not subtle. Amar Rav Chizda, said Rav Chizda, Shrika Tavya, basting some kind of a roast that comes out of the oven, Shari, that's permitted. Piapue Be'e Asr, but to scramble up eggs is not acceptable. Alright. The Visu de Zeiri Avdale Lechir Bar Ashi Velo Achal. So the wife of Zeiri made a roast for Chia Bar Ashi, and she basted it with some kind of oils and stuff. V'lo achal, and Chia Bar Ashi didn't eat it. Amrle, and she said to Chia Bar Ashi, L'rabach avdile v'achal v'at lo achal. And she said, I make it for your teacher Zeiri, and he eats it. What, you don't eat it? Zeiri l'taime. Now Zeiri goes according to his reasoning to Amar Zeiri, that Zeiri said, No sin adam yain tzalul umayim tzlulin l'soch am-shameres b'shabbos v'eno choshesh. Because Zeiri says that you're allowed to take clear wine or clear water and put it through a strainer on Shabbos, and it's no problem. Meaning, if you have wine that's already strained, and if you have water that's already strained, you can put it through a strainer on Shabbos because, it's already strained. Like, it makes no difference. So, Alma came into Mishtate Hachi Lav Midi Ka'avid. Oh no, or maybe what it means is that, what does Rashi say? The Sharai, the Shtosa Kamoshu below Sinun. Okay, meaning if it's, I guess, clear wine, if the wine is already in a state where it's able to be drank, so then putting it through the strainer, doesn't really make much of a difference anyway, so then it would be acceptable. So here also, the roast was already able to be eaten, so since you can already eat it that way, basting it, it doesn't necessarily make a substantive change that it would be considered misakin or something, and it would be acceptable to eat. So Amma came in the Mishtate Achi, Lav Midi Kavit, Achanami came in the Misachil Achi, Lav Midi Kavit. Right? So since the wine can be drank even without the straining, so here also, since the roast can be eaten without the basting, so it would be acceptable to eat it. Said Mar Ukva, Mishanagfa Yado or Raglo, Tzom Sabiyain, Beno Choshesh. If somebody hurt his hand or his foot, so he can apply wine to it. I guess they used to apply wine. I guess wine was like a remedy for lots of stuff, I guess. So you could apply, usually I don't really think about using wine. I drink wine, I don't know, I don't put it on my skin really. Anyways, Ve'enu Choshesh, So if your like hand or foot is all swollen, you could put wine on it and it's okay. Ibayalu chala mai. What about vinegar? Amar Rav Hillel Rav Ashi. Rav Hillel said to Rav Ashi, Ki avina be Rav Kahana, Amre chala lo. So he says, when I was by the Beis Medrash of Kahana, they learned Darton that you're not allowed to put vinegar on like swollen hands and feet. Amar Rava v'hani b'nei mechoza kevin de mefanke afilu chamra nami masi lehu. Rava said, of course, every time we see the b'nei mechoza, that Rava is quoting the b'nei mechoza, it's always talking about how particular they were and how pampered they were and wealthy they were. Right? So here's just another example that the people in mechoza are so sensitive that even wine, applying wine to their skin, will have healing implications. Ravina ikla levei Rav Ashi. Ravina visited to Rav Ashi. Now remember, Rav Hillel said to Rav Ashi a minute ago that Rav Hillel said to Rav Ashi a minute ago that when he was by the Beis Medrash of Rav Kahana, they said over there by Rav Kahana that vinegar would not be allowed to be applied to these swollen hands and feet and stuff. So when Ravina went to visit Rav Ashi, that sounds very uncomfortable, friends. So Ravina visited Rav Ashi and he saw that unfortunately a donkey had trampled on the foot of Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi's foot was very swollen. And Rav Ashi was actually applying vinegar to his foot. So Ravina said to Rav Ashi, Lo savar lamar la'adamar of Hillel chala lo. So Ravina said to Rav Ashi, don't you hold of what Hillel said to you, that by Rav Kahana they wouldn't, they said over there that you cannot apply vinegar to swollen limbs? So Amalei gavayad v'gavaregel shiny. That actually it's different when it comes to the back of your hand and the back of your foot, because for some reason that was considered an extremely serious injury, so serious that you can even be Mechal Shabbos for it. Those who say that Ravina saw that Rav Ashi was applying wine to the back of his foot. So there are those who say that Ravina saw that Rav Ashi was applying wine to his foot, to which Ravina said, well, don't you hold of what Rava said, that in mechoza, since in mechoza they are so pampered, so even wine they would not be allowed to apply to their wounds. And Rav Ashi, let's be honest, you're a pretty pampered fellow. So Amar Le, Rav Ashi said to him, Gavayad v'gavaregel shiny, that the back of the hand and the back of the foot are different. To Amar Rav Adabar Masna Marav, Gavayad v'gavaregel, the back of the hand, the back of the foot, Harehein Kimaka Shel Cholol, they are like an internal wound. Machal and as a Shabbos, and you can be Machal Shabbos in order to heal them. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Rochten b'mei Grar, you are allowed to bathe in the waters of Grar. B'mei Chamsan, b'mei Asya, b'mei Tveria, in all these different waters, the waters of Chamsan, the waters of Asya, the waters of Tveria. Aval, lo b'yam hagadol, but do not wash in the waters of the Yam Hagadol. The question is, what's the Yam Hagadol? Is it the Mediterranean? Is it any ocean? I don't know, let's call it the Mediterranean. V'lo b'mei Mishra, not on water that you soaked flax in. Don't wash up with flax soaking water. V'lo b'yam shel stom, and not in the Dead Sea. Do not bathe in the Dead Sea, because all of the because the Yam Hagadol, the Mei Mishra, the Dead Sea, these are all obvious that you are doing it for healing purposes. Viraminu. But we have a question, friends. Rochtzim b'mei Tveria uv'yam hagadol. You are allowed to bathe on Shabbos in the waters of Tveria, that's the Galilee Mistama, as well as the Yam Hagadol. 1 second, friends. Didn't we just say a minute ago that you would not be allowed to bathe in the Yam Hagadol? And now this Bryce is saying that you are. Avalo b'mei Mishra v'lo b'yam shel stom, but you would not be allowed to wash, of course, in flax-soaked water and water that flax was soaked in, or the Dead Sea. So kashi Yam Hagadol, ayam hagadol. No. So we have a question. The first brisa, we said that you are not allowed to bathe in the Yam Hagadol, but then we have a second brisa that says that you are. So what's pshat? Amar B'Yochanan lo kasha. B'Yochanan says it's no problem, friends. Harab Meir, Harab Yehuda. Depends. It's machlokas l'maisa between Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda. So the first brisa, which says that you're not allowed to rinse in the Yam HaGadol, that is going to be Rab Yehuda, as we're going to see. And the brisa which says that you are allowed to wash in the Yam HaGadol is going to be Rab Meir. How come? Ditnan, because we have a Mishnah called Ayamim Kimikva. All seas are like a mikvah. Now, what does that mean that they're all like a mikvah? Remember, we've seen this, I think, more than once, which is that there is an afkamina when it comes to mikvahs. There's a ma'ayan and there's a mikvah, okay? A mikvah is like when you go to Batei Rand, you go to a nice Haredi mikvah. It's a little pool. You know, maybe there's a hot one, a cold one, a medium. They're all full of people. And in any event, it's a pool. So over there, what you need is mei geshamim, rainwater, and it's still, it's not moving, it's not flowing waters. It's a pool, it's a body of water. That's a mikvah. Now, a ma'ayan uses mayim chaim, it uses spring water, and it flows, right? There are waves, it flows, there are, current, whatever. It's like a sea, the water's moving. So here's the thing. So if you say that all of the yamim are like a mikvah, well, then basically that essentially means that you can't actually use them to purify yourself, because a mikvah needs that the waters aren't moving. But if you go to pretty much any sea, like the Galilee Sea, what's it called? The Kinneret, the waters are moving over there. They're not still. So you basically cannot go to the mikveh in any sea. And Hillel, I think, if I remember correctly, Hillel, we were talking about this at your house on Shavuos night, maybe, about like if you can go to the mikveh in the Mediterranean or not. So, it sounds like it might be connected to this discussion. This discussion certainly seems to be talking about it, right? So basically, if you say that all of the seas, including the Yam HaGadol, and we assume that that's the Mediterranean. So if we assume that that's the Mediterranean, I guess that there's a big nafkamina. No, I think either way though, the Mediterranean would be considered a Yam HaGadol because it feeds into the ocean, I think. Pretty sure. It's connected somehow to the ocean. It's not like self-contained like the Kinneret. So in any event, so if we assume that the Yam HaGadol is like a mikvah, well then it has the halachas of a mikvah, which means that in order for you to be able to purify in it, the waters would have to not be moving. But they are moving. Okay, so the Tznan, as we learned in the Mishnah, called Ayamim Kimikveh, all of the seas are like a mikveh. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Ulu mikveh amayim kara yamim. That it says in the pasuk in Bereshis, it says that to the that all of the seas he called mikvehs, right? Ulu mikveh amayim kara yamim. That basically he called the seas a mikveh amayim. So divrei Meir. So according to Meir, every single sea, they're all the same. There's no difference between the Yam HaGadol or all the other seas, right? All of the seas are called a mikveh. And they're basically all the same. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda Yam HaGadol kimikveh v'lo nemar yamim ela sheish bo minei yamim harbe. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the Yam HaGadol is what it's referring to in that pasuk. So it says, ulemikveh amayim kara yamim, right, that these yamim, that these seas are called a mikveh. That's really only referring to the Mediterranean, to the Yam HaGadol. And the reason, says Rabbi Yehuda, the reason why it's called the Yam HaGadol is because the reason why it's called Yamim, why it's called many seas, is because many different seas feed into and flow into the Mediterranean. However, that pasuk really is just saying that the Mediterranean is considered like a mikveh, and as the halachas of mikveh and Hillel, like we were talking about, according to this, it would sound like we have to treat the Mediterranean with the halachas of a mikveh, and a mikveh needs still standing water, and the Mediterranean, of course, has waves and moving water. So that would not, that would work for a ma'ayan, but we're saying that the Mediterranean would be governed by the laws of a mikveh. Okay. Fine. Zel. Rabbi Yossi Omer, so Rabbi Yossi has some kind of a middle opinion. Kol hayamim mitayrin b'zochalin. So Rabbi Yossi says that all of the yamim, all of the seas are mitaher b'zochalin. They can be mitaher a person if they are moving, right? So moving waters. So that includes the Mediterranean. Ufsulim l'zavim. However, they would not work for zavim u'mitzoraim l'kadosh ben mechatas, because by a zav and a mitzora it needs what's it called? Mayim chaim. And that would not be, for whatever reason, considered mayim chaim. That all of these different seas, while they would be considered, if we look at the bottom Rashi on the page, Rabbi Yossi Omer Kol Hayamim V'Yam HaGadol Toras Ma'ayan. mayim zochalin alem. So basically, the Mediterranean is like a ma'ayan, and that it has zochalin, moving waters. Linyan she mitarim bezochalin, in that they could be mitar even if they're moving. Because all of the different streams flow into them. Interesting. But at the same time, the pasuk does call at least the Yam HaGadol a mikvah, which means so it's a mikvah in that we don't consider the waters of the Mediterranean to be mayim chaim. So therefore, for a zav, for a mitzora, for mechatas, for the paraduma, we need mayim chaim, and the Mediterranean we're saying is a mikvah. It wouldn't be considered mayim chaim in that regard. However, we do say that would be mitayer bezochalin, and it looks like the Rambam seems to paskin like Rabbi Yossi. So once again, Hillel, according to our discussion, it would sound like the Mediterranean would be acceptable for a mikvah to be mitayer from tuma, even though it's moving, because it's a ma'ayan and all the different streams feed into the Mediterranean. The waters are moving, and it's mitayer bezochalin. It's mitayer when it's moving, which is fine. The only thing is that it's considered a mikvah legabe zav and mitzora and mechatas, but in terms of being mitayer, it would be considered to be mitayer. It would be a ma'ayan that it's mitayer with moving waters. New friends. So how does that get back to our original machlokas? We had one brisa that says that you would not be allowed to bathe on Shabbos in the Mediterranean. We have the other brisa that says that you would be able to bathe in the Mediterranean on Shabbos. What's pshat? So we said, well, the first one that says that you are not. So that's going to be Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda differentiates, meaning in the context of mikvah, and that's going to be Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's kasha, as we're going to see in a second. But in the context of mikvah, we say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Mediterranean is unique. The Yam HaGadol is unique in that it is treated as a mikveh and as the halachas of mikveh, but all other seas, such as, the Kinneret, the Galilee, any other sea, has the halacha of, doesn't have the halacha of a mikveh, right? So we see that Yam HaGadol is unique, and because Yam HaGadol is unique, that's why even when it comes to Shabbos, it's unique in that you would not be allowed to bathe in the Yam HaGadol. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The second brisa, which says that you would be allowed to bathe in the Yam HaGadol, that's going to be like Rabbi Meir, that according to Rabbi Meir, the Yam HaGadol is no different, the Mediterranean is no different than any other sea. Therefore, there's nothing unique about the Yam HaGadol, and just like you can go to the mikveh in any sea, you can also go to the mikveh in the Yam HaGadol. I didn't mean the mikveh, just like you can bathe in any sea, you would also be able to bathe in the Yam HaGadol on Shabbos. And I hope I wasn't saying, okay. Before I was talking about going to the mikveh in the Mediterranean, whether or not you can go into the mikveh in the Mediterranean. However, now, for our discussion over here, we're talking about, can you bathe in the Mediterranean on Shabbos? And according to the first brisa, the answer is no, you cannot. And we're saying that that's Rabbi Yehuda, who differentiates between, and yes, that's regarding mikvahs. Rabbi Yehuda differentiates between the Mediterranean and other bodies of water. And therefore, we're going to say that on Shabbos, when we say that you're not allowed to go to bathe in the Mediterranean, that is going to be according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabbi Meir, who says that the Mediterranean is like all other bodies of water, all other seas with regarding mikvah, that we treat the Mediterranean as well as all seas like a mikvah. He's going to say that also we don't differentiate between the Mediterranean and any other body of water on Shabbos, in that you would be allowed to bathe in the Mediterranean. There's nothing special about the Mediterranean. He's going to be the author of the second brisa. Now, Maskefler of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nachman bar Yitzchak asks a question. Amor de fliege le'inyon tuma v'taira. Says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, I will say that that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir have differing opinions with regard to Tuma and Tyra, have differing opinions regarding the Mediterranean and other seas with regard to if it's a kosher mikvah, if you dunk in it when you're tummy, will it work or not? However, there's no nafkaminas in terms of Shabbos, in terms of does it have healing qualities. Can you go to can you bathe in it on Shabbos? That's a different question, right? In terms of Tumah and Tyra, there's a question. Is a cause of it? Is it a mikveh amayim karyam? Is it a mikveh? Is it, right? There's different laws governing mikvahs than governing healing on Shabbos. Therefore, there's no connection between the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir regarding mikvahos and applying it to whether or not you can bathe in the Mediterranean on Shabbos, and would that be an obvious refuah? Then in Shabbos mishamas lu, Who says that they argue regarding Shabbos? Ella Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rather says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, Lo kasha had ishtihi adlo ishtihi. No, something completely different. The first brisa, when it says that you're not allowed to go to the Yam HaGadol, to the Mediterranean on Shabbos, so that is because it's saying you're not allowed to stay there for a long time. You can't go into the Mediterranean on Shabbos and hang out there for a long time, because then it will be obvious that you're hanging out there for medicinal purposes, for refuah purposes. However, the second brisa says that you would be allowed to go to the Yam HaGadol on Shabbos. That's for a quick in and out. For a quick in and out, no problem. However, there's a kasha on that. B'may ukimta levraisa delo ishtihi. 1 second. So you're saying the vasraisa delo ishtihi. 1 second. You're saying that the second brisa, you're allowed to go to the Yam HaGadol because you're not staying there for a long time. Because you're not staying there for a long time, and therefore that entire brisa is talking about not staying for a long time. Right? What did we say in that second brisa? That when it comes to the Kinneret, when it comes to the Yam HaGadol, you're allowed to go. When it comes to flax water, when it comes to the Dead Sea, you would not be allowed to go. And if we're saying that it's talking about when you're going in and out, you're going quickly, and that's why by the Yam HaGadol you're allowed to bathe in it, well then that also means that by the Dead Sea and by the flax, we're talking about that you're not even allowed to wash with it even when it's quick, but that's not true. Idlo ishti afilu b'mei mishra nami. But if we're talking about where he's not, soaking himself for a long time, well then you would be allowed even with flax, with water that flax was soaked in. D'atanis, we learn in a brisa, rochtzin b'mei tveria uv'mei mishra uv'yom ha'shosto. You're allowed to bathe in the Kinneret and in water that flax was soaked in, and in the Dead Sea. And even if you have like cuts on your head, and it's obvious that it's for refuah, you would be allowed to bathe in any of these bodies of water. But Medvar Mormon continues the brisa. When is this said? Shelo nishteha. As long as you don't hang out there for a long time. If it's in and out, it's no problem. Even in the Dead Sea. Even with water that flax was soaked in. Aval nishteha aser. But if you wait for a long time, then it wouldn't be allowed. No, so we see that even Mei Mishra and even the Yam HaMelach, even the Dead Sea, as long as it's in and out, that would be acceptable. So therefore, when the brisa is saying that the Yam HaMelach and the Mei Mishra are not allowed, that must be talking about to go for a long time. And yet over there we're saying that it is allowed for the Yam HaGadol, which means even for a long time you'd be allowed to go to the Yam HaGadol. So it can't be like Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ella Yam HaGadol, Ayam HaGadol lo kasha, habiyafin shabo, habirayim shabo. Okay, so the way to understand the differing attitudes towards the Yam HaGadol in the first brisa, which says that it's not allowed, and the second brisa, which says that you would be allowed to bathe in it on Shabbos, is that it depends which part of the Mediterranean you're going. If you're going to one of the beautiful parts, well then you would be allowed to hang out there for a while because you're just chilling there. But if you're going to one of the not beautiful parts, and it's like, wait, why are you going there? It must be that you're doing it for refuah purposes, for healing purposes, and we will say that you wouldn't be allowed to hang out there. But mistama, just to go in and out, that would be acceptable even over there, since you're allowed to, I assume, since you're allowed to do that in the Yam HaMelach, you'd be allowed to do that with Mea Mishra. Now when it comes to Mea Mishra nami lo kasha de ishti ad lo ishti. And now the Gemara then says that also when it comes to water that flax was soaked in, it's no problem. When the brisa says that it would be allowed, it's when you're not hanging out there for a long time. When the first brisa says that it's not allowed, it's when you're hanging out there for a long time. Okay. And we didn't really need that last part about Mea Mishra since it was already in the brisa where it says B'med Dvar Mamurim, but yeah, we said it anyways. Alright, new Mishnah. In Ochlin Ezavion b'Shabbos, we don't eat Ezavion on Shabbos, lefi she'eno maichol brim, because healthy people don't eat Ezavion. Only unhealthy people eat Ezavion. And therefore, it's obvious that you're doing it for healing purposes. Aval ochelu es yoezer, but you can eat yoezer v'shosa abovroa. But you can drink, you can eat yoezer and drink abovra. Alright? Kol ochem ochel adam l'refuah v'chol mashkin shosa. Person can eat any food and he can drink any drinks. Chutz mimei dikalim v'chos ikarin. But don't eat, drink water from palm trees. No, I don't know that that's coconut water. I don't know what water from palm trees is exactly. Or some kind of drink that with like different roots and stuff cut up in it. Because that is for healing jaundice. But you could drink palm water for if you're thirsty. And you're allowed to rub this root-based oil into your skin if it's for as long as it's not for healing purposes. Which is interesting, because it's a very thin line, because on the one end we're saying, the same, let's say, made the kalim, this palm water, so like it just really depends what you're doing it for, which is super interesting. Fine line. Amr of Yosef, Ezov Avrisa Bar Hamag. So when it says in the Torah, Ezov, like for example, like by Mechatas, I think it is, or like by, I think like by the Paraduma, I think you take like some hyssop and then you like dip it in like the for Paraduma stuff, and then you sprinkle it on the fellow. So that Ezov, that hyssop, is Avrisa Bar Hamag. Ezavion, now when we say that you don't eat Ezavion on Shabbos, that's Avrisa Bar Hing. Okay, got that? Good. Ula Amar said, Ula Marva Chivara. Oh, very fancy. So Ula says that actually Ezov in the Torah was white sage. Ula Ikla Lever of Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Now Ula visited the house of Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Aisu Lekami Marva Chivara. And guess what they brought in front of Ula? They brought in front of him white sage. Amar, he said, Hainu Ezov Dichsid Ba'araisa. Guess what, friends? This is the Ezov that is talked about in the Torah. Rav Papi Amar Shumshuk. Rav Papi says that the Ezov in the Torah is Shumshuk. Amar B'Yirmi Midifti, Kavas Edu Rav Papi Mistavra. B'Yirmi Midifti says that actually it sounds like Rav Papi is right on this, that the Ezov in the Torah is Shumshuk. The Tananas, we learned in the Mishnah, Mitzvahs Ezov Shlosha Kalachin Uvayin Shlosha Gevolin. And we learned in the Mishnah that the mitzvah of hyssop is 3 stalks, and each one has like 3 buds. V'shumshuk hu demishtach hachi, and shumshuk is the only species that would fit this bill, fit this description. All right. Lamai achlile, how come you eat ezavion? What did you have to do to yourself in order to want to eat ezavion? The answer is likokiane. It's good. No, likokaine. It's good if you have worms in your belly. Yuck, right? Alright, but if you have worms in your belly, eat ezavion, which of course we said is avrisa bar hing. Okay. And how do you eat this ezavion? Well, b'sheva tamre uchmisa, with 7 black dates. Mimai havya, and what causes these little wormy stomach friends? Mikimcha desare dechalif ale arbein yomin. If you eat barley flour that has already been ground 40 days prior. Aval ochelu es yoezer, but you are allowed to eat yoezer. All right. My yoezer, what's yoezer? Posnak. Apparently, it's something called pennyroyal. All right, but there's this other explanation that calls it some kind of a mint or a nana. All right, that sounds nice. Why do you eat pennyroyal? But pennyroyal is a funnier name, so it's called pennyroyal. So why do you eat pennyroyal? La'arkasa b'me'e. No, la'arkasa, for little wormy friends, but this time it's not in your stomach, it's in your liver. B'mai achlele, and how do you eat pennyroyal? B'sheva tamare chivarta. Okay, so this time you eat it with 7 white dates. What the heck are white dates? Mimai havya, why do you get, maybe they're like not dry dates. Like dry dates are always like a dark kind of color, but like when they're fresh, they're not really edible. At least in my experience, they're super duper dry. They like imagine like eating a bunch of saltines. That's like what it is, right? Anyways, friends, why do you get worms in your liver, friends? Mi umza umaya aliba rekana. Okay, you get worms in your liver if you eat meat and drink water. Umsa is like specifically like grilled meat, right? Yeah, if you eat like grilled meat and water on an empty stomach, shamna aliba rekana, or from fatty meat on an empty stomach, or from ox meat on a empty stomach. I wonder if the first meat was maybe like lamb meat or something. Or from nuts on an empty stomach. Or from eating stems of fenugreek on an empty stomach. And after all these things, or any of these things, you drink water. So then you'll get little wormies in your little livery. And if you don't have, what did we say? If you don't have pennyroyal available, so then livla tachle chivarta, so then just eat like white cress, I think. Okay? Eat white cress. If you don't have white cress, so then lesiv b'tainisa. So then, sorry buddy, then you gotta fast. Alright. V'leise bisra shamna, but then you gotta afterwards, I guess, bring fatty meat. V'lishte agomre, and throw it on burning coals, okay? V'lemitz garma, and then suck out like a juicy piece of meat. V'ligma chala, and then sip vinegar, okay? V'ikadam, those who say chala lo, those who say no, wait, hold off, don't do the vinegar part, mishum dekashi lekavda, because it's taka bad for your liver, and I guess we're trying to heal the worms in the liver without damaging the liver. Very, very subtle kind of thing. Okay. Ve'ilo, and if this doesn't work out for you, so then laisi gorda de asinta. So then bring bark from some kind of a bush. The grida me ilai lesatai, that the bark was peeled off of the bush, but from top down. But velo mitatai leilai. Don't peel it from the bottom up, right? From the top down. Dilma nafke aide pume, because if you peel the bark off from from the bottom upwards, well then the worms might come out of your mouth. We don't want them to come out of your mouth, so don't peel it upwards, peel it downwards, and that way we'll keep things moving from the mouth through the digestive system. Okay, very good. Where was I again? Okay, here we go, friends. V'lishalka b'shichra be shivive, and then boil this bark in beer at twilight, okay? Ulamachar, and then the next day, naskirino lin kavav, close up your nostrils so you don't have to smell it. D-day. Vilishte, and drink it. V'chimafne mafne apshicha didikla, and then when you inevitably have to defecate and go to the bathroom, do that on the tree right where you peeled off the bark. And I guess then your wormies will be gone. Vishosin abuvra, and you could drink this abuvra. My abuvra chum traya. Abuvra is a chum traya. My chum traya. What's a chum traya? Chutra yichida. Okay, it's some kind of a stick. So you're allowed to drink a stick. And I guess you kind of make some kind of a tea out of a stick tea. Lamai avda, it's some kind of, I don't know, stick that grows from the ground with like no branches, just like a stick at this. Vinishlokinu bade adade. No, did I just skip? Yeah, lamai avdila. What do you drink this stick for? So the giluya. Well, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah talks about leaving water uncovered. We're concerned that a snake might get it and infuse the water with its venom. So don't drink exposed water that was exposed overnight or something. So now if it was and you drank it and now you got venom inside of you and you're all sick and everything, so then what you do is you drink a stick. Ve'ilo, if you don't have a stick, or if you can't figure out how to drink the stick, so then laisi chamsha klile v'chamsha kosta de shechra. So then bring 5 roses and 5 cups of beer. Vinishlo kinu bade adade, and then cook them together adikaima anpika, until it reaches this kind of small measure the size of a revius. Meaning it sounds like you're going to make some kind of a syrup. Meaning you start with like 5 cups of beer and some rose, and you boil it down until it's like a what do they call that in like cooking and stuff? A reduction. Sounds very fancy. Okay, vinishte, and then drink this reduction. And what's it going to do again? Oh, right. If you were poisoned by snakes, then you won't be poisoned anymore. That sounds good. Beer, roses, healing. Sounds pretty nice. Ime Rav Achadvoy Bar Ami. Avdale Le'ahu Gavra. So the mother of Rav Achadvoy Bar Ami made for a certain fellow, chad klila, so one rose, v'chad kosa de shechra, and one, she basically 1/5 the recipe. So the regular recipe is 5 roses and 5 cups of beer. She did 1 rose and 1 cup of beer. Okay. Shalka, and then she cooked it all together. V'ishkise, and she gave it to this fellow to drink. V'shagra tanura, and then she lit an oven. V'garafte, and she shoveled out the coals so that it could cool down a little bit. V'osivte levinta bigave, and then she put a brick in the oven. And this fellow sat on the brick, and guess what happened? The most beautiful thing in the world. V'nafa kuhutza yarka. He puked out like Rashi describes that it's like a lulav, like, I understand it this way, that like a lulav has like all those like layers of it. So imagine like one of those green, those like long green leaves of a lulav. So the sort of the visual description of this is that he puked up all of the poison, and it came out of him like a like one of these green long leaves from your lulav. Very, very beautiful. Okay, let's move on. Where are we again? Okay, fine. Rav Avia Amar Revi'asa Dechalba Me'iza Chivarta. Rav Avia said, well, you can also just use milk, a revi'as of milk from a white goat. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda Amar Laisi Esroga Chalisa. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda said, just bring a very sweet esrog. V'lechaike, and make like etch out like a part of it. V'limalye duvsha, and fill it up with honey. V'losva be milale denura v'lechle, and then put it like in coals and let it like get really hot and cook together and eat it. That sounds very nice. That probably sounds like the best option, no? I don't know, maybe not. Who knows? Rabbi Chanina Amar says, Rabbi Chanina meraglayim b'nei arba'in yom. Oh, so if you have urine that is 40 days old, okay, 40-day-old urine. So barzina lizibora, so this very small amount is good for like wasp bites. I think drinking it, lemaisa. Revia la'akrava, if you got bit by a scorpion, so drink a revias of 40-day-old urine. Palga riva legiluya, half of a log you should drink if you were you should drink that if you drank water that was exposed and potentially bitten, infused by snake venom. Riva, and if you drink a full log of this, so then afil l'chshaf mailu, it's even good for witchcraft. Amar Rav Yochanan anigon va'avangar v'tiraiku mailu bein legiluya bein l'chshafim. So anigon we learned about Masechta Brachos is some kind of beet, boiled beet thing, and also avangar tiraiku. They're all different kinds of like waters that stuff was boiled in, and they're good for like if you drank water that was not covered, or if you witchcraft and stuff. Hamad bala chivya, somebody who swallowed a snake. Anybody swallowed a snake? How do you even do that? So, well, somebody swallowed a snake. So luchle kshusa b'milcha, so you should eat hops that were salted. Velirate tlasamile, and then go and then run for 3 mil. Rav Shimon bar Ashi chazi lahu gaver devala chivya. So if Shimon bar Ashi saw that there was a certain fellow who swallowed a snake, idmele kifarsha, so kifarasha. So he appeared to this fellow like a horse rider. Now I don't know if he appeared to him because this fellow was hallucinating from eating a snake, or if whatever. Rav Shimon bar Ashi just kind of like appeared to him like a snake, like a horse rider. And he gave the guy some hops with salt, and he had the guy run in front of him 3 mil. And guess what happened? The snake came out of this fellow in little pieces. Those who say Rav Shimon bar Ashi bala chivya, those who say that Rav Shimon bar Ashi taka ate a snake. Also Eliyahu idmele kefarasha. Eliyahu Navi came and appeared to him like a rider. Ochlek shusa b'milcha v'arhate kame tlasamile, and Eliyahu Navi gave him hops that are salted, and he made him run in front of him 3 mil v'nafak mine gove, and then the snake came out of Rav Shimon bar Ashi in little itty bitty pieces. All right, well, friends, that was Daf Kuf Tes. Lots of interesting medical advice. Although there was a note in the art scroll that kind of pointed out that maybe this medical advice, not maybe, they kind of said don't really try this at home, kind of thing. Things are different these days, or we don't really know what they're talking about. So better don't drink like 40-day-old urine and all that kind of stuff. Although the beer with the roses, maybe you could try. I don't see what the issue should be with that, but I don't know. But anyways, that was today's daf. Yeah, there was that interesting bit there about like how to, refer to the Mediterranean in terms of, is it a mikvah? There was 3 opinions over there. So Rabbi Meir said that basically all seas are the same and they're treated like a mikvah, which basically means you can't go to the mikvah in them, like you can't purify yourselves in them because they have running waters. Rabbi Yehuda said that would only apply to the Mediterranean, or maybe the ocean, depends how you understand Yam HaGadol. Whereas Rav Yossi said that no, all of the seas, when their water is moving, that is when they purify. But they can't be used for things where you need mayim chayim, like a mitzora and a zav and efer mechatas. Anyways, friends, that was Daf Kuf Tes. I hope it was enjoyable. Have a great day. Peace.